everyone. Welcome to the final tale of the semester. Thank you for making this semester so successful for tale. We've had really good turnout to all of our events, so thank you. So let me applaud you for that. So let's start with a game. Dr. Aziz and I share at least 5 similarities, 5 things in common. Can you guess what they are?
Same college.
Okay, same college. Yes, Mount Holyoke.
Same country.
Women. We're both women. We're both Bangladeshi.
United.
No, that no. Huh? Work at the same place? Yes, we both work at AUW. Fahima? We both majored in economics in college. Okay, that's pretty good. Great. Huh? Well, what else would? Both have PhDs. Good. Yeah?
Like both of you came from US and to here.
Okay, that's true. We both moved here from the US. Excellent. Yes.
Both of you love the student of AUW?
We love the students of AUW. That's quite the most important point. Very true. Anything else? That's great. I asked for 5, you gave me 8. Thank you very much. So in a way, you've already introduced Dr. Aziz to yourselves, right? So I don't think she needs any further introduction. I just want to thank Dr. Aziz for all the support you've given TALE this semester, and we look forward to your continued support next semester. One other thing we have in common is that we're both sick. We both have colds. So my voice sounds funny, and Dr. Aziz, thank you so much for agreeing to this. And really, Dr. Aziz agreed to do this in spite of not feeling the best, because she loves our community so much. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Aziz for her.
Good afternoon, Sarah. Thank you so much. That was a very lively introduction. I feel truly honored to be speaking at TALE, and I just cannot imagine why someone would want to listen to me, listen to my tale. But thank you so much for inviting me, Sarah, and thank you for being here. This is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be here, but I cannot promise you that my story will be interesting. So this is an opportunity for you to leave. But I'll try my best. Yes, you're right about Sarah and I having the similarities, but also we are very passionate about women's leadership issues and female empowerment, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Yes, I was born in Bangladesh. I was raised in Bangladesh. I have just wonderful childhood memories of growing up in a family of 13 brothers and sisters. Yes, and it was very interesting. I had very feminist parents who would never make a decision till the wisdom of all the daughters were taken into consideration. Before my father and mother would make a decision, was that we want all the 7 daughters to come into the room. So it was just equality right then and then. I didn't know at that time what it meant. Very open-minded, sort of a liberal upbringing. My parents were very religious too. They said their prayers 5 times a day, Muslim family, but they never pushed it on us. They'll say, you will do it when you are ready for it, which is very interesting. And they gave us the humanity in Islam was very present in the family. We couldn't speak ill of any other religion, of any other race, or any people from any different background. It was like the sense of humanity was there. So it was very interesting. And when I say a feminist background, my father would always say, I want you to think about your career first. And all my daughters and sons will have to get a PhD. It was like a necessary condition in the household. So he meant we must pursue higher education. It was very important, especially the daughters. And he said, also, never change your last name if you ever get married. And I remember I was only 10 years old, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? I should never change my last name. Because I wasn't even thinking of marriage. But it was really the importance of being educating, having a career. And he would keep saying, never be dependent on anyone. So that was kind of interesting. And then I was going to Holy Cross. It's a convent a Christian convent, and I think the values of the sisters, the nuns, were just wonderful. I think I had a very good schooling in Holy Cross. Anyone from Holy Cross? No? It was a good school. I have made lots of good friends. I was always the class president all my life. So people, I had a nickname. You know what it was? Indira Gandhi. I'm not like Indira Gandhi at all. And I remember having a joint event with the boys of, I think it was St. Joseph's. I think we had an event. It was a cultural event. So the Holy Cross girls had an event with the St. Joseph boys. It was quite exciting. And even the boys, and I was somehow the leader of the event. I don't know how that happened. And they called me Indira Gandhi too. So that's good. That's good. The boys were thinking as a woman to be a leader, so that's not so bad. It was a wonderful, wonderful high school days. I made a lot of friends, and I'm meeting them now. I can talk about that later. And then my father made it very clear to us that all of us would go to US. He would say, US is the place. Because all his cousins and brothers and others went to UK. London was very big at that time, but he said, no, United States is the place to get good education. He's a very voracious reader. He used to read a lot. So my sister went to Wellesley, another one went to Simmons, one went to Harvard, MIT, and I went to Mount Holyoke. So that was great. So all of us, the other went to Johns Hopkins. So almost out of 13, 8 of us went abroad to study, which was kind of nice. So when I went to the US, I had brothers and sisters in the US in different schools. And why Mount Holyoke College? It was just, he felt that all the daughters should go to a women's college. Somehow he thinks, maybe perhaps it would be a safe environment. I don't know what, I never asked him. He passed away, so I never could ask him why he identified all the 7 sister colleges for us. Perhaps I'm thinking it would be a safe place, but he also felt that these were very good schools, 6 sister colleges were, and at that time Mount Holyoke was ranked as number 7 or something, so it was really highly ranked. So let me talk about my experience at Mount Holyoke. I was introduced to the values and robustness of liberal arts education during my undergraduate years at Mount Holyoke College, which I think, now that I think back, it set the foundation of my career path. Later, as a scholar, a teacher, and an academic leader, I developed a deeper appreciation of how liberal arts program can help students become critical thinkers, lifelong learners, and especially global citizens. And also, I think liberal learning helps develop in them the value of service to society, diversity, the importance of diversity and ethical reasoning. So these are the values I cherish, and I'm so pleased to see that they also appear in the list of AUW values. Every day in my life I see this and what's happening in your classroom. So that's why I can support AUW's mission wholeheartedly and the values enthusiastically. And that's the reason why I came to AUW. The mission of AUW just touched a chord in me. In many ways, it reminds me of Mount Holyoke College. So it's kind of nice, to be back again in an environment of all women's college. My experience at Mount Holyoke was absolutely wonderful. It was a very transformative experience, actually. And I knew that this was happening to me the day I was on the campus. I realized very quickly when I was in the classroom, in the classes, that I was, for the first time, learning to learn. I don't know whether you know what that means. I became more metacognitive of my own knowledge, the resources, how I'm able to find resources. So it was purely a learning moment that, you really have to know how to learn. So learning to learn was happening. Also, it became quite clear that knowledge is not subject to diminishing returns. It's an economics term, that if you put more land, more fertilizer, more resources, at one point the output does not increase. But that doesn't happen in terms of gaining more knowledge. The more I learned, I really realized that I knew so little, because I learned and I reflected and I realized, oh my goodness, I need to learn more, because there's just so much more to know. So and I think that helped me become more curious. in terms of what I want. I couldn't decide for a long time what major I would. I love physics, I love philosophy, I like computer science, and I loved economics. But I thought, all right, out of the 13 children, my father identified me the one who can be a lawyer because I was a very good debater. When I was growing up, at lunchtime, he would have a topic and we would debate. All brothers and sisters would debate. And he always felt that I was a persuasive communicator. And he said, I think you're going to be a lawyer. So I chose economics purely because I wanted to be a lawyer, because that's what the background was. At that time, I really didn't think I was going to be a professor, an instructor. Another wonderful moment of transformation, or rather learning at Mount Holyoke, was I started to value diversity. Although I came from Bangladesh, I really grew up with Bangladeshi women. We had few international students in our classes, but valuing diversity, but importantly also to understand that however different you are, there's lots of commonality in our values that bring us together, especially on a campus. It doesn't matter how different you are, but there are so many commonalities, particularly vices and virtues are universal. So when I was getting some culture shock, I would write to my family, so I'm so surprised, they do it this way. My father would say, my dear daughter, similar bad things can happen here too. It's all over the world. I remember a small incident. I borrowed like a quarter. You know what a quarter is, just to make a phone call. So I was really shocked when one of my Mount Holyoke friends asked for the quarter back the next day, because that doesn't happen in Bengali culture. You don't ask, And I was like so sad, somebody asked that, and I was going to give it back to her eventually. So I wrote to my father saying, I was so disturbed, and he said, far worse things can happen here too. So you must understand the values, the virtues and vices are universal. But the point I'm trying to get across was it was a wonderful multicultural setting, a learning environment that I see at AUW. And it really is precious because it made me see things with a different lens. Mount Holyoke is extremely multicultural in terms of we have students coming from 40 different countries. So I was making friends from students from Peru, from Colombo, from Philippines, from just in India, Sri Lanka, all over the place. And I think that really made a difference. The educational experience was extremely unique in that sense. Also being in all-women's college, and research also talks about it, that being in an all-women's environment, we find that more women are successful being in that environment. But what really I learned that day, I wasn't thinking of success when I was going to Mount Holyoke, but what made me understand was about female empowerment, that I can almost do anything. I remember walking on the campus saying, oh, I can do anything here. And there was a saying, Mount Holyoke, a challenge to excel. The challenge was about empowerment, really, truly. And the longer I stayed at Mount Holyoke, this sense of confidence built more and more. And perhaps the seeds of feminism was already planted in my brains by my family. But here I was living it almost. I could feel the sense of confidence and female empowerment. Especially, you are so much younger, but I was at Mount Holyoke in the 70s, and that was right after the 60s feminist movement. So for us, for the women of our generation, it was really important at that time, the feminist movement, what it did. So, and here at Mount Holyoke, we were starting to talk about it and realize that it does make a difference about women's rights and female empowerment. I'm very grateful for being at Mount Holyoke. As I said, I made lots of good friends, maybe far too many international ones. And the current Mount Holyoke president, the current Mount Holyoke, Lynn Pascarella, she was my classmate. We lived in the same dorm, and she said, Fahima, do you remember? We used to cook wonderful meals. And she said, we cooked all kinds of international meals, and we had such a good time. We probably did far more socializing than we should have, So, and she told me stories that I had forgotten, which was kind of interesting. She remembered so much about me. than I did. Anyway, fast tracking quickly, Mount Holyoke to University of Massachusetts in Amherst, did my master's. Oh, after I finished my bachelor's, I thought I just need to be in academics. I just love learning. And I thought, no, I can't go home, I need to do a master's. And of course, my father said, I have to do a PhD. So I went on to my master's, then very soon I got into the University of Minnesota PhD program. It was very mathematical PhD program. I was very lucky that I got into it, very competitive, extremely cutthroat. And as soon as I went in there, I realized, whoa, this is going to be something really interesting because we were only 3 females in that program, and there were 36, together. Out of 36, only 12 graduated, and 1 female, and that was I. So it was like, thank you. It was very male-oriented because economics business is very male-oriented. We had faculty who were extremely high-powered, who were doing research in Federal Reserve Bank, didn't have time to teach. Really, you would find sometimes they would come and talk on topics that was nowhere in the syllabus. We had, talk about ambiguity. Incredible. We had to take a comprehensive exam and we didn't know where the questions were going to come from, which courses. But what made me, and also there was group formation, it was competitive, there were groups and they were all working together, and it was almost like only so many of us can pass the comprehensive exam. So it was very competitive, which was so different from Mount Holyoke, the experience I had at Mount Holyoke. But one learning moment was, I had to find a professor who would be my PhD thesis advisor. You gotta have a good thesis advisor if you want to be successful in the PhD program. And of course, there was only 1 female professor in the entire department. And of course, I went to her, and then she said, absolutely, I will be. I had talked to some other professors, but I just felt that I need to work with her. And I truly believe that I was successful because I had such a good mentor. Mentoring matters. This is something you must remember. And I was so lucky, I got an advisor, a thesis advisor, who was a true mentor. I still talk to her. She still writes fabulous letters of recommendation for me. And its research also shows for women mentoring works. So it's important for you to be identifying when you're at your workplace or when you go to grad school to find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a woman. They're wonderful. When I was at Hamlin, I'll come to that, the president and the provost were my mentors too. But it is a two-way street. You want to be mentored, the mentee and the mentor, but that really matters. And women engaging in networking. And I realized that when I was doing my PhD, that how important that would be. Anyway, as I was doing my PhD, I also became a mother of 2 lovely daughters. So I took a long time. If you look at my resume, I took a long time to finish my thesis because I was basking in the joys of motherhood. But I was so lucky that I had an advisor who understood the importance of motherhood. So I was really so fortunate. So I did take a long time. After I passed all the comprehensive exam, which I thought I never would pass, I was surprised to see the letter which said you passed the exam, because so many people were failing those, that I had to take a break. And it was wonderful to be a parent. It took a little bit of time. I finished my thesis, took a little bit, but it was good. And then I found a job at Hamlin University. It was the oldest liberal arts university in Minnesota. And I was so lucky, when I took a teaching job, I said, I will only take this job. First, I was so afraid that I would never find a job because I took so long to do a PhD thesis. So I was very lucky. I was teaching part-time at different places, and I just loved teaching. So my teaching evaluations were wonderful because my students were so wonderful. I was absolutely passionate about teaching. So I got a job, and I said, so I did at my interview, I taught a class. And of course that went really well, and I got the job. But I said, I can only take this job if you give me a schedule 8 to 3 p.m. because I had to drop my daughters off and pick them up. So I was very lucky. They did accommodate me. And then later on, my daughters didn't want me to come to school anymore because they got older. So that was just fine. Anyway, Hamlin as an assistant female professor, again, within 1 year I was made the chair of the department, untenured. I don't know whether you know that in the US it's a system, after 6 years you get tenure. That means your job is permanent. And you never want to be a chair without having this tenure, because as a chair you make decision about your faculty colleagues. And these faculty colleagues actually vote on your tenure. So, and you have to make difficult decisions. But the provost and the president came to me within 1 year and said, we would like you to be the chair. I said, are you kidding me? I'm untenured, it's 1 year. I just said, no, we need this Department of Management and Economics to go to a higher level, and we think you can do it. That was a difficult decision, so I said, I need some time. So what I did, something, I hope, a good thing that I did, and I hope this is something you will remember. I went and talked to all the faculty, very senior, and I said, how do you feel of me being a chair? So I needed the faculty buy-in. I really needed, I just didn't want to listen to the provost and the president. I wanted to make sure that they are okay. So some were not sure, said, how can you do it? It's such a big risk. And others said, oh, you will do a fantastic job, but it's a big risk. So everyone said, it's a risk, you're taking a risk. But you see, you have to take a risk or else you'll never know. If you don't take a risk, you will never know what the right thing is. Maybe, and I am so glad I did it. I did it because very quickly I realized the reason I wanted to do it, which my colleagues asked, why would you want to do it? And I said, I want to do it because I really want to make a difference. As the chair, I can make decisions about the program. There had been no external reviews going on. There were no new hires. Our number of majors were not growing. It was like, and I could see the ways I can increase the number of majors because I loved advising. Very quickly, within 1 year, I had 135 advisees. So I knew what the students wanted. I knew what students wanted, and I knew that if I was in a leadership position, I can make a difference. So the only reason I became the chair, not to have the power, because you really don't have much power as a chair, let me tell you. Chairship means a lot of work, which is so true. You really don't have. What you have to do as the chair is you have to build collegiality in the department. You really have to have faculty buy-in, because you make decisions in an academics. Academics is a very complex place. You have to make decisions, and you can only make decisions when you have your colleagues' support. And you can only do that through good communication, being transparent, and you have to somehow, your colleagues need to know that the institution or the department and the students' interests are at your heart, not you. It's not about Fahima, it's about the students. So I focused on student learning. That's when I really said, we got to do something. So we changed evaluations, we started external review, increased the number of courses. But the best thing I liked about being at Hamlin was being a professor, a teacher. Magical moments happened in the classroom, and I realized my students were learning. And difficult matters. I remember a student coming to statistics saying, Dr. Aziz, I'm going to fail statistics. I said, you know you're going to fail before taking the class? And absolutely, I tried 3 times and I failed. And then I said, no, try it with me. And to see the students enjoying statistics. Statistics is not a very interesting subject matter, as you know. To make something comprehensive, to the students that they can understand, to make it easy, to make it fun, and to see learning taking place was so rewarding for me. But above all, I think I enjoyed being an advisor, because I could be a holistic professor. I loved placing my students in internships. All my advisees were placed with jobs, because at Hamlin it worked differently. We had a career development center, but the advisors actually helped a lot of these placements. So I took a lot of pride in. But this experience was so rewarding for me, to be able to see the growth and the development in the 4 years. Because very soon a student would come to me, I would say, you have to do internships, you have to do 2 internships, you have to do a research project, you have to do at least, you have to do an honors thesis. I would, help them start thinking about their path to development and personal growth. And I really enjoyed that. But then the important lesson I took from my experience at Hamlin is important to be in leadership position, especially for women. Because when I became the chair, we had to tackle issues of equity in the department. Like some faculty had so many advisors and some faculty had none. And it always looked like some Some faculty had more advisors because students gravitated, so I had to make a policy. After 30, others would have to take on advisees. So maternity and parental leave. I was in search committees. We made sure there were gender balances in terms of hiring, hiring faculty of color, diversity. We put in policies. You really have to work on making the place a better place in terms of equity and fairness. So tackled a lot with young faculty who had children. I made sure their schedule was such that they could go home, and you were able to do all that. So just being a woman as a leader, one thing I would urge all women in the room, if you're ever in a leadership position, do something for the women or our underprivileged group. Because if you can do it, you're the one who can do it, and please take advantage of that. Possibly to make positive differences, both in student learning, in the curriculum, and in the faculty lives who are under me. I also was the ALCAR chair, as in my bio you have seen that. That was for international learning, and I enjoyed bringing in speakers, just like Sarah is doing, bringing in speakers. It's amazing how wonderful things happening at AUW that some of this is the same thing that happened at Hamlin, bringing in Nobel laureates. And when I became the chair, I made sure I brought in some women speakers, because it was important for our students to see women leaders coming in. But again, the bottom line is to improve the students' learning and their experiences, to enhance international learning in this Midwestern university, where many of the students don't have this international experiences. And I could do that by bringing in speakers. Anyway, I went through the ranks again of assistant, associate, full professor. But there was an urge in me to make a difference in higher education. I was passionate about liberal arts. I was passionate about higher education and student learning. Many of my research has been about Grameen Bank, female empowerment, gender issues in the labor market, race and gender, but also how students learn. How can we make sure students are learning in the classroom? Giving a grade doesn't mean students learning. So I was very involved with the assessment and student learning, reflection papers, metacognition in students, all that was happening. But at the same time, I had this urge to take on administrative position, as much as I love being in the classroom. So I got an American Council of Education Fellowship, where they groom you and train you to be an academic leader. I did that at McAllister, at Hamlin. It was a wonderful experience, and I started to look for a job where I could be a provost or a vice president. And then lots of wonderful things were coming my way. Then one afternoon, somebody called me and said, oh, we have a very wonderful leadership position that's out of the US. And I said, no, I don't want to be. US is home, my family is here, I can't leave US, so I didn't want to speak. Again, this search firm kept calling me, no, please, Dr. Aziz, will you please take a look at this. So one Friday afternoon, I started to look at this, and I said, oh my goodness, this is in Bangladesh, and it's all women's, and it's liberal arts, it's like, and the mission, what an innovative experiment, and the mission. I was like, what should I do? I mean, as I talked to my husband, he said, Bangladesh, are you kidding me? You're going to go to Bangladesh? I said, well, I got to take a look. So they didn't talk about, so they did a Skype interview, the search firm, and they really liked me. Said, would you? I said, well, I want to look at the campus. I really want to go to Chittagong and see. So I came here. Already I was in 2 job offers, in the very final stage. So I came for an interview. In the morning, the interview, it was all right, I'm like, not sure. I was asked to watch a video. I'm like, I'm watching a video by myself. I mean, where everyone else, So I was not convinced the first, and I don't know whether it was the first day or so. And then I went into the classroom. I visited 2 classes, and I was like, it was absolutely the deciding moment for me. When I saw, I don't know whether you know, there's a Bloom's learning. Bloom has created different stages of learning that happens in us. And it was Bloom's higher order of learning was taking place in the classes. Confident critical thinkers. You were integrating information from different courses. You were synthesizing information. it was unbelievable. The energy and the enthusiasm, like hands would go up. And I said, this would never happen at Hamlin, where I was. This would never happen at McAllister. This would never happen at Carleton, all the places that I had visited. Because as the ACE fellow, I had visited different universities. The pulse of AUW was just right there, vibrant, so infectious. And this did it for me. I was completely sold. I even remember that evening, no one took me for dinner. You usually should take candidates out for dinner. I was sent home dinner, and I'm like, this is strange, but the students are so wonderful. I kept thinking, this is a very strange place, but the students are so wonderful. And then next day I had lunch and tea with students, or tea